There is a young female journalist, conservative journalist by the name of Laura Loomer.
If America's men acted like Laura Loomer, our problems will be fixed in about 5 minutes.
Chained herself to
She
Twitter.
chained herself.
Good evening and welcome to episode 115 of Loomer Unleashed. I'm your host, Laura Loomer. We're live right now on Rumble and X, so please be sure that you head on over to rumble.com/Laura Loomer, rumble.com/Laura Loomer, and click the follow button on my page so that you never miss an episode of Loomer Unleashed. Also, you can support my work on a monthly basis by becoming a subscriber on my locals page. Click that Get Loomered button and you can subscribe for $7 a month or $70 a year on my locals page, loomer.locals.com, which of course is an affiliate of Rumble. And of course, we're live on X. So please be sure that if you're watching, you repost and retweet the live X link at Laura Loomer on X, and also on X at Loomer Unleashed. We have a lot to talk about tonight. It's a pretty busy news day, pretty busy news week. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I should have a daily show instead of just a show twice a week. But it's a lot to cover, even with just 2 shows per week. I want to get into this story that I found to be kind of entertaining. And maybe I'll take some flack for saying that it's an entertaining story, given the fact that it was an act of arson. But I find it to be entertaining because of the political hypocrisy. As many of you may have heard, the governor's residence, occupied by Democrat Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania, was set on fire by an arsonist last week. I think that we have a news article about this. I mean, I don't know if you haven't seen this, and you must not be watching the news at all, because it's literally the only thing that the Democrats want to talk about. Oy vey, the home of the Jewish governor, Josh Shapiro, Jewish Democrat Josh Shapiro. Oy vey, somebody set his home on fire. Oy vey, the first night of Passover. Oh, it's like another Shoah. And you're probably like, oh, why are you laughing about this? You know, it's not very nice to laugh about somebody's house being set on fire. I'll tell you why I'm laughing about it. So we have this story that comes out the other day. Let's get one of the original articles up, because this is the one that came out yesterday. But when the story first happened, it was like, oh my God, Jewish Governor Josh Shapiro gets targeted. How could they? They targeted a Jewish governor on the first night of Passover. How dare they? And they tried to politicize it and make it seem like Josh Shapiro was targeted because he's Jewish. And, you know, they tried to say, oh, well, the guy was a Trump supporter. The guy that set the house on fire was a Trump supporter. No evidence, of course, whatsoever that the guy who has been identified, we have this man's name. I mean, his name doesn't even matter. It's just the fact that they try to spin this narrative. Cody Bomber, okay? Cody Bomber is the guy who says what we know about the suspect in arson at Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro's residence. Cody Bomber has been accused of a slew of crimes, including terrorism, prosecutors said on Monday. So he's got this, you know, Salafi beard going on there. They tried to actually say that Josh Shapiro was targeted by a Trump supporter who set his home on fire because Donald Trump and his rhetoric is causing an increase in anti-Semitism in America. This is what the Democrat pundits were actually saying on television in the aftermath of this act of arson. But now, right, after talking about this story ad nauseum for the last week, the Democrat media just doesn't want to talk about it anymore. They don't want to talk about it. And why do they not want to talk about it? Well, new details just came out. Let's go back to that other article. Shapiro arson suspect indicates pro-Palestine motive for attack at the governor's family home. So this guy is like a Marxist, okay? He's a radical Marxist Democrat, the guy that set the home on fire, this Cody Bomber individual. And apparently he called 911 and turned himself in when he set the governor's mansion on fire. And while he was talking to 911, he took responsibility for the act of arson. And then he said it was because Josh Shapiro was, I guess, pro-Israel, and that he wasn't going to support the governor attacking our people, the Palestinian people. So the guy is, self-identifying as a Palestinian Muslim. And he is saying that the Palestinian Muslim people are his people. And he said that he carried out this act of arson because of the war between Israel and Hamas. And so, you have to find this to be quite laughable and humorous, given the fact that Josh Shapiro was passed over. I mean, we talked about this extensively during the election season on Loomer Unleashed. He's another one of these self-hating, retarded leftist Jews who thinks that, if he pays a dhimmi tax, right? If he pays the dhimmi tax to the Muslims and, if I do the bidding for the Muslims, please, Muslim, please don't kill me. I'm a good Jew. I'm one of the good Jews. I'll do your bidding. I'll hang out with all your radical Muslim friends. I'll support you. I'll give your mosque funding. You have a sickness. It's an illness in the left-wing Jewish community where they think that if they do the bidding of these radical Muslims, that these Muslims are just going to wake up and decide that they don't hate Jews anymore, or that they don't hate Christians anymore, or that they want to be civilized members of society. Okay? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It never has happened, and it's never going to happen. So Josh Shapiro, in the days leading up to this act of arson, gave $5 million. Let's go ahead and get that up. You could just type that in. I mean, you can fact check all this stuff live on air right now so that you know that everything that you're hearing here on Loomer Unleashed is accurate. Josh Shapiro gave $5 million to a mosque, the Philly Alaska Center. This story just came out a couple weeks ago, March 26th. Shapiro announces $5 million grant to Philly Muslim Community Center. A record $5 million redevelopment grant will help a private school that blends Islamic teaching with a standard curriculum. But this Islamic center has a documented history of preaching hatred against Jewish people. There was another report that came out that some of the Islamic scholars, right, that's what they like to call themselves. They're Islamic scholars, not Islamic radicals. They're Islamic scholars. They're very serious scholarly people, okay? And if you say anything otherwise, then you're an Islamophobic bigot like me. And he gives $5 million to this Islamic center that has a documented history of saying things like Jews are the most vile people in the world. So Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, gave a $5 million grant to an anti-Jewish mosque. I mean, let's be honest. Isn't every mosque anti-Jewish? It's in the Quran. There's more Jew hatred in the Quran than Hitler's Mein Kampf. But we can't talk about that, or else we're anti-Muslim or Islamophobic. We hate Muslims if we talk about the true contents of the Quran, and if we actually want to give people a factual lesson on the danger of Islam in Western civilization. You're just going to be another bigot, a bigot like me, right? You've seen all the things that they call me. So we can pull this up. I posted a couple of tweets about this, and you can see the reports that show that this Islamic center was cited for preaching hatred against Jewish people. Here we go. Daniel Greenfield had an article about it. Shapiro sends $5 million grant to the mosque that called Jews the vilest people. Governor Shapiro attended an iftar dinner at a mosque where an imam had previously declared that Jews are the vilest people and announced a huge grant for the hate mosque. The $5 million grant, described as the largest ever given to a Muslim institution, came only 5 years after the Alaska Islamic Society in Philly was forced to apologize for posting Islamic sermons by an imam delivered at its mosque, declaring that Arabs were superior to all races and that Jews were the enemies of Allah and the vilest of people. So Josh Shapiro, self-hating Jew, using taxpayer money to fund a hate mosque where they are preaching in support of Hamas. The real estate records traced back to the Islamic Society of North America, a Muslim Brotherhood association that was cited during the Holy Land Foundation terrorism trial, our nation's largest terrorism financing trial. And you have to ask yourself, why is Josh Shapiro funding these people? If he's Jewish and he wants to go cry about how he was attacked during Passover with his family at the governor's mansion, oy vey, a Jewish governor was attacked by a radical. Oy vey, let's sit around and cry about it. Oh my God, maybe we should have some more hate crime legislation in Congress to talk about all the hate speech and the anti-Semitism. But we can't talk about the fact that it's the Democrats that are actually manufacturing all the anti-Semitism, right? We can't talk about the fact that anti-Semitism is a self-creation by Jewish people, right? We can't talk about that. We can't talk about the fact that Jewish people, and I say this as a Jew myself, literally go out of their way to create anti-Semitism by funding Jew-hating Muslim organizations and participating in interfaith dialogue with Jew-hating Muslims. So then they want to cry about, oh my God, all the anti-Semitism and look at all these radical Palestinians and the Hamas flags and blah, 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 blah. I mean, every day it's like, you know, more victimhood from members of the left-wing Jewish community who literally have zero self-awareness as they're standing shoulder to shoulder and arm to arm with these radical Muslim protesters who are protesting or resisting, as they like to say. It's the resistance 2.0. They're resisting the Trump administration by waving Hamas flags. Okay, we've documented this. I went to Washington, D.C. I was there with Charles Downs, my Washington, D.C. correspondent for Loomer Unleashed. We showed you the video footage, and maybe we can pull that up. We can pull up those old clips, and you can see the clips of these pro-Hamas rioters and protesters in front of the White House several weeks ago, waving Hamas flags last weekend when they were protesting against Elon Musk and Donald Trump by waving a Hamas flag. Let's go ahead and play some of these. We have so many. If you just go to my Twitter account and you type in Hamas rioters at Laura Loomer, we've been documenting it. For those of you who want to fact check in real time, you just type in Hamas rioters, Laura Loomer, and you can see the entire documentation. Years worth of documentation on my X account proving and documenting the Democrat Party's fixation with Hamas and their alliance, this radical red-green alliance, as I like to call it, the Marxist Islamist alliance, the red-green axis. And then Josh Shapiro's like, oh my God, how could this happen? How could somebody set my home on fire while my kids are inside? Oh my God, it's like another Shoah. It's like another Holocaust. Yeah, I mean, look, how much crying is this guy going to do? At what point in time is any reporter going to say, you know, do you take any responsibility for an individual setting your home on fire who supports the Palestinian pro-Hamas movement when you yourself just gave $5 million 2 weeks earlier to a pro-Muslim Brotherhood Islamic Society in Philadelphia? At what point do we just say, cut the shit, Josh Shapiro? Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, Shapiro. I mean, really. At what point do we demand accountability from these left-wing Jews who seem to be taken over by some form of mental illness, like a Stockholm syndrome? I don't know what it is, but it's some kind of a mental disorder that causes them to support people who literally want to watch them burn to death in their own homes. Josh Shapiro was going to be vice president with Kamala Harris. Do you remember this? Do you remember when Josh Shapiro was going to be the vice president, but then they said, oh no, we can't have a Jew. We can't have a Jew. You know, Kamala Harris and her crazy laugh. We all know what her crazy laugh was, right? Oh, we can't have a Jew. If you don't believe me, pull up the articles. Type in Josh Shapiro denied VP position Jewish, something like that. There's a million stories about it. He was literally denied the VP position because he's Jewish. Here we go. And then he tried to deny it. Oh, they didn't pass me over because I'm Jewish. They 100% passed him over because he's Jewish. They said, Josh, we can't win the Muslim vote in Michigan and Minnesota. So they chose Tim Walz from Minnesota. Because why? He does a lot of Muslim outreach, and he has allowed for his state of Minnesota to turn into Little Mogadishu. It's like a Somali shithole, okay? The state of Minnesota is a Somali shithole thanks to Democrats like Tim Walz, okay? That's why they chose Tim Walz to be Kamala Harris's VP. But then they, I guess, fumbled their policy because Kamala Harris was the sitting vice president of the United States of America while she was running for president after Joe Biden bowed out. And the Muslims decided that they weren't happy with Biden's response to the war between Israel and Hamas. So they decided to vote for Trump, right? So the Democrats lost the Muslim vote, but they decided that it was going to be the Jew on the ticket that would cause them to lose the Muslim vote, as opposed to their own inability to enact proper foreign policy or get the war between Israel and Hamas under control. So, look, for the most part, Muslim voters in this country, and it's not every Muslim voter, but I'd say like 95% of the Muslim voters in this country are very selfish people. Okay, they're single issue voters, and their single issue is Islam. They're only going to vote for somebody who they feel is going to advance the cause of Islam in that given moment. And in this case, that person was Donald Trump, because Donald Trump was really the only candidate on the ballot who was proposing a peace deal for the war between Israel and Hamas. That's the only reason why a lot of these Muslims voted for Donald Trump, right? I mean, look, these people subscribe to Sharia supremacy. They believe in an ideology that is supremacist in nature. There are some patriotic Muslims in this country who put the Constitution before Islam, but for the most part, most Muslim voters in this country are incredibly selfish people. They're single voter issues who only vote to advance the cause of Islam. It's true. I don't really care who that offends by me saying this. It's 100% true. If you ask the Muslims who voted for Trump in Hamtramck and Dearborn and all these Muslim enclaves in America why they voted for Trump, they'll say, oh, because Donald Trump promised that he was going to restore peace to Gaza, even though there was never any peace in Gaza. So, I mean, look, it's delusion, right? But that's what you get when you're dealing with a supremacist ideology like Islam, right? Unfortunately, we don't really have anybody in the Republican Party that has the balls to stand up to this ideology and start calling it out. That's why you have Islamic compounds that are popping up in places like Texas and Florida, where you have these Sharia supremacists trying to buy up land and create these Sharia zones in these Sharia communities. I mean, you even had the mayor of Hamtramck, who unfortunately was just given an ambassadorship under the Trump administration to go be the ambassador in Kuwait. So look, you have people on the right and the left that clearly don't want to do anything to crack down on Islam in America. And then, they cry. They cry when they become victims. They cry when our monuments are desecrated in Washington, D.C. They cry when the governor's mansion that is being occupied by a Jewish governor gets firebombed by an anti-Semite Palestinian Muslim. Okay. But look, what are people doing? If somebody is a true victim of an act of Islamic terrorism or a true hate crime, then yeah, you can feel sorry for them. But if you're somebody like a Josh Shapiro, who is literally funding the same people who are preaching hatred against the Jewish people, go fuck yourself, Josh. I don't have any sympathy for you. I don't have any sympathy for self-hating liberal Jews who are supporting the people that are promoting and encouraging hate crimes against Jewish people and Christians in our country and all throughout the West. It's not just Jews, it's Christians too, okay? They are slaughtering Christians in Syria right now. They are slaughtering Christians all around the world. And yet these politicians, they want to enable it. And then they cry out, what do they say? They cry out in pain as they strike you. They cry out in pain as they strike you. That's what Josh Shapiro is doing. He's crying out in pain as he strikes you. They say, oh, it's an anti-Semitic trope to say that, I think it was the ADL that said, oh, that's a very anti-Semitic thing to say. They cry out in pain as they strike you. But it's true. Look at Josh Shapiro. He's crying out in pain as he strikes us. He's funding these Islamic Jew haters who are trying to destroy Western civilization. He's supporting groups like Hayas. He's supporting mass immigration. He supported Alejandro Mayorkas. He's supporting all of these left-wing Jewish organizations and leftist Jews in government who are supporting the invasion of our country, who are supporting the Islamification of our country. And then he wants to pretend to be a victim when a Palestinian Muslim sets his home on fire while his kids are inside. So hopefully Daddy Shapiro explained to his kids why their home was set on fire. And it's because of his own behavior. You know, Josh Shapiro really instigated and he really antagonized the situation that led to his home being on fire. If anybody is to blame for the act of arson at the governor's mansion, it's self-hating Jew Josh Shapiro. That's who we should be blaming. Go blame Josh Shapiro for funding Islamic Jew haters. We have some video clips, too, from the news media that briefly talked about this, but they didn't really go as hardcore as I did, where they talked about how this Palestinian guy called into 911 and said, oh, Josh Shapiro is attacking our people, which is why I set his home on fire. But of course, the Democrats aren't going to talk about that because, well, then, you know, they're going to be forced to admit that these Palestinian protesters really aren't exactly peaceful people like they've been pretending they are for years now. Let's go ahead and play some of these news clips. I think we had a clip from one of the local newscasts where they were talking about this earlier.
Governor's residence on North Front Street in Harrisburg. We did have a photographer on scene. Multiple fire crews responded to the governor's residence at 2035 North Front Street just after 2 a.m. Several state police along with Capitol Police were also on scene. Harrisburg Fire Chief Brian Ennerline tells ABC 27 arriving crews found fire coming from the first floor area. The fire was quickly contained. Several people were inside at the time. Chief Ennerline says that's including members of the governor's family. He says they were all evacuated safely. Chief Ennerline says he cannot comment on if Governor Josh Shapiro was inside at the time.
Here's another clip. Let's go ahead and play this clip.
This morning, a possible motive for the arson attack targeting Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. While part of the residence was still smoldering early Sunday, Pennsylvania State Police said the suspect, Cody Balmer, called 911, identified himself, and said Shapiro needs to know that he will not take part in his plans for what he wants to do to the Palestinian people. A newly released search warrant application quoted Balmer saying he wanted to stop having my friends killed, and our people have been put through too much by that monster. Police said Balmer later admitted to harboring hatred toward Governor Shapiro and told investigators had he confronted Shapiro in the residence, he would have beaten him with his hammer.
The prosecutors will ultimately determine what motivated this.
The governor said the attack would not deter him from openly practicing his Jewish faith.
I want them to see that my wife and I and our kids continue to celebrate our faith proudly and openly. I want them to see that people from all different faiths have reached out to condemn this act and to lift up our family in prayer. And that's the Pennsylvania way.
Shapiro also said he has full confidence in the Pennsylvania State Police. But Rebecca, the agency is now embarking on an independent review of security around the governor and his residence.
Yeah, and extremely troubling for him and his family and their security. Aaron, thank you. We appreciate it.
Here's another clip as well. Let's go ahead and play. Posted it on my X account. If you want to go to my feed, and you can see that they admit. I want to play this clip again just so that you can see how nonchalant these reporters are. Look, you'd think that they would be more focused on the fact that they're literally admitting that it was a Palestinian motive, yet they're just like, oh, well, we hope the governor's okay, instead of having a conversation about the rise of Islamic terror in America and the non-peaceful motivations of these pro-Hamas Palestinian protesters in our country. It's really disturbing to me to see how desensitized these reporters are on Good Morning America to the fact that the motivation was Islamic in nature. I mean, years ago after 9/11, Americans would have been in an uproar to know that an attack was motivated by Islam. And now people are just sitting around like, oh, well, we hope the governor's okay, instead of actually having a serious conversation. Let's play the clip one more time because I don't think people really like let this stuff resonate in their minds. Let's go ahead and play the clip.
This morning, a possible motive for the arson attack targeting Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. While part of the residence was still smoldering early Sunday, Pennsylvania State Police said the suspect, Cody Balmer, called 911, identified himself, and said Shapiro needs to know that he will not take part in his plans for what he wants to do to the Palestinian people. A newly released search warrant application quoted Balmer saying he wanted to stop having my friends killed, and our people have been put through too much by that monster. Police said Balmer later admitted to harboring hatred toward Governor Shapiro and told investigators had he confronted Shapiro in the residence, he would have beaten him with his hammer.
The prosecutors will ultimately determine what motivated this.
The governor said the attack would not deter him from openly practicing his Jewish faith.
I want them to see that my wife and I and our kids continue to celebrate our faith proudly and openly. I want them to see that people from all different faiths have reached out to condemn this act and to lift up our family in prayer. And that's the Pennsylvania way.
Shapiro also said he has full confidence in the Pennsylvania State Police. But Rebecca, the agency is now embarking on an independent review of security around the governor and his residence.
Yeah, and extremely troubling for him and his family and their security. Aaron, thank you. We appreciate it.
This morning, a possible motive.
They don't even talk about it. They don't even want to talk about the fact that the guy admitted he did it for Islam, for Palestinians, for Muslims. Do you see that? They're just like, okay, well, let's have a conversation about this, right? Like if I was sitting there and I had access to mainstream media, I'd be sitting there wanting to have a conversation about, whether or not we should be condemning the Democrats for promoting the Palestinian movement that is inciting this type of violence in our country. I think it's really concerning that something like this can happen to a United States governor, and they want to pretend like it's just a simple act of arson as opposed to an act of Islamic terror. And that's what this is. They said that they're investigating this guy for terrorism, but notice they don't actually want to say Islamic terrorism. I'm sure that we're going to learn a lot more about Cody Balmer and the fire in the coming weeks. And I'm sure that Governor Shapiro is going to milk this incident as much as possible as he prepares to launch his 2028 presidential campaign. Moving on now, we are witnessing a looming trade war between the United States and China. And while we're witnessing the tariffs enacted by the Trump administration, I believe today it was announced 245% tariffs on China. Let's go ahead and get this article pulled up. Some people thought that it was actually a typo. 10% tariffs on other countries. And of course, China's not backing down anytime soon. While the Trump administration is enacting these tariffs, and here we have the fact sheet they released as well. Fact sheet: President Donald J. Trump ensures national security and economic resilience through Section 232 actions on processed critical minerals and derivative products. Let's go ahead and get the article up about the tariffs as well, just so people, in case you're not following along with this, you're aware of these tariffs. 245%. And while these tariffs are taking place, we're witnessing a surge in gold prices. Do we have this? Can we get this up on the screen, please? Getting it. Here we go. White House 245% tariff figure for some Chinese products causes confusion. You can scroll down. Amid a tense trade war with China, a White House statement that some Chinese goods face 245% tariffs generated confusion in Beijing. Was it another escalation? No, Trump's new tariffs on China still stand 145%. But the White House quickly tried to clear things up, saying the 245% figure that they put in the April 15th document outlining the context for a new executive order from President Donald Trump, that sheet that we just showed you, represents all previous and new tariffs on some Chinese goods dating to Biden and the first Trump administrations. Asked for comment on the data from the White House, a Chinese official responded on April 16th that it was up to the United States officials to provide answers on how they got to 245%. And so, because of a lot of economic uncertainty and global uncertainty with the markets and also with our foreign policy, it's causing a lot of anxiety in the market and also a lot of anxiety from investors and everyday Americans who are watching the stock market go red. And so while this is happening, Americans are investing in precious metals. And as you know, our biggest supporter here at Loomer Unleashed is our sponsor, Kirk Elliott Precious Metals. And whenever tariffs are in the news or whenever gold is surging, we love to have Kirk come on the program and talk to all of you about why now is a great time to invest in precious metals and gold and silver, and why people are now hedging to gold amidst this economic turmoil and the Trump tariffs and this looming trade war between the United States and China. So joining me now to talk about why gold is surging to record highs and what the American people should do to survive these Trump tariffs is the founder and CEO of Kirk Elliott Precious Metals, Dr. Kirk Elliott. Thank you so much for coming on the program tonight.
It's great to be with you, Laura.
Yeah, so interesting times. Sure, business is going very well for you. So
busy. It's actually never been busier. Yeah.
You're getting busy. We talked about this last time you were on the show. We actually predicted this. We talked about how what we could expect in the incoming Trump administration. And we said that we could probably expect tariffs as were promised by the Trump administration. And it didn't take very long. I mean, we're less than 100 days into the Trump administration and we already have tariffs. I know that you've appeared on various programs this week to talk about it because we've seen that gold is now over $3,300. So what's going on?
Well, we have to look at the basic backdrop of what this is all about. And, you listen to mainstream media enough, like a lot of people are, and this is where they're getting their news. And they're thinking Trump's tariffs are causing all of this stuff. No, Trump's tariffs happen to be happening at the same time that something bigger is going on, right? It's just coincidental that they're happening at the same time. Now, the tariffs are actually acting as an accelerant. There's no doubt, but it's not the root cause of why gold and silver are going up, right? Because if you look at why, right, it could be a cyclical thing, it could be a structural thing, or it could be a crisis move, right? Why gold and silver go up? Because when gold and silver go up, it's usually because of speculators wanting to take profits. Something big is happening and it's a flight for quality type of investment. When the foundations around us are eroding, people tend to want something that's real, that's transparent, that's accountable, right? So I want to kind of take you on a little bit of a history trip, going all the way back to 1980, right? So in 1980 was the last time that gold had a really big, massive run up, like what we're seeing right now, right? But it was different. It was a different time. So from, call it 1978 until 1980, gold went from about $620 an ounce to $2,600 an ounce in a couple of years. Massive growth, right? But what was it that caused it? In 1980, when Reagan came into power, you had the Iranian Revolution and an oil crisis. Right. And so the global community got together and you had all these stupid international non-governmental organizations like the World Economic Forum and the World Trade Organization and all these places that got together and said, we're going to fix this problem. Right. And so back then you had this international cooperation, so to speak, and they sort of fixed it. Right. At least the appearance that they fixed things was there. So that 1980 rally in gold faded because this global community got together and they sort of fixed things, right? So the geopolitical resolution, caused the movement in gold and silver to come down. But this move is completely different, Laura. This is not based on a speculative blow off of sorts. It's not really investors going into this market. It's something bigger than that. This is a broader structural shift in the entire global economy that's happening with the core difference being this: global trust has eroded, right? People now are looking at this global community and they're saying, oh, all these problems, the geopolitical conflict, the wars and the rumors of wars, all this debt spiral that's imploding. There's no international cooperation that's going to fix this thing, because the international community is blaming Trump, and Trump is saying, no, I've only been in office for 100 days. None of this was actually because of me. I'm trying to fix it, right?
So he's trying to fix years, decades of China taking advantage of our country. And there's going to be a little bit of pain in the beginning while this is being enacted because, you know, what do they say? No pain, no gain. And that is true. And China, the CCP, is not going to be backing down. They said the other day through their spokesperson that they're not worried about being threatened because they don't worry about threats from the United States impacting their elections or impacting their way of life in China. Well, of course they don't. They're communists. They don't have free and fair elections in China. They don't have a democracy. They don't have a constitutional republic. They have communists who rule with brute force there. So, of course, you know, China is not going to comply or feel a need to comply. And unfortunately, the United States government has put itself in a position over the last several decades in our country of mass dependence on China for everything from our manufacturing and our production and our medicines. 95% of our pharmaceuticals come from China. And so, you know, China kind of has us by the balls too. While President Trump isn't going to be backing down, and I'm sure he's not going to allow for Xi Jinping to push him around like Joe Biden allowed for Xi Jinping to push us around. This is going to be a standoff. I think that a lot of people are underestimating how quickly China is going to cave. I don't think that China is going to cave as fast as many people are predicting. What do you think?
I agree with you. I don't think they're going to cave because when you look at what Xi is totally surrounded, right? Trump is absolutely brilliant in what he's done here because when Trump puts tariffs, like you just talked about the 245% tariff, right? So,
and a lot of people couldn't believe it. They thought that it was a typo. I mean, people actually were contacting the White House asking if it was a typo.
Well, and it's not a typo. So, but if you break it down, you've got three separate components in this 245%. Number one is the reciprocal tariffs of 125%, which started all of this, right? And then there was the 20% tariff on Chinese goods because of the fentanyl crisis, right? So you add those two, that's 145. Now, Section 301 put into effect 7.5% to 100% tariffs on certain Chinese goods. So you take 125 plus 20, that's 145. Even if you go to the low number, 7.5%, that means the minimum tariff on Chinese goods is 152.5. The maximum tariff could be 245, right? Okay, so here's where Trump is absolutely a genius because Xi, he has the Chinese people behind him because of comments like, "We are never going to bow our knee to America," right? We're going to fight tooth and nail, and we want to be the world's reserve currency. We've got the BRICS nations. We've got this. We've got the manufacturing might. We're never going to bow our knee, right? And we're not going to capitulate. So Xi is drawing this line in the sand, right? Because if he capitulates, he loses the political support that he has in the country. Granted, he's a dictator. He could stay in for as long as he wants, but it could be really ugly when the peasants in the rural parts of China start an uprising, right? We've seen that before there. So he's got that political problem. Now, let's just say that if he capitulates, he loses political favor. If he doesn't, and he keeps going back and forth with these trades and this trade wars and say, okay, we're going to raise our tariffs because you keep raising ours, and he keeps playing this game, he kills the Chinese economy. Right? Because this is where Trump has won yet again. Because if you look at the balance of trade, Laura, ask yourself this simple question. How many Chinese in China buy American goods? Maybe 4 to 6%. Right? It's not very much. How many Americans buy Chinese goods? Well, probably like
everybody.
100%. Everybody. Like every single day, right? So the impact of Trump's tariffs on China are massive to their economy. And to us, When Xi comes back and says, well, we're going to raise tariffs on American goods coming into China, Trump, and he said basically this, it's like, so what? It's like, it's a nothing burger, right? Well, do what you're going to do. We're just going to put it back on you because it impacts you more than it impacts us. So this is actually creating an upheaval in the Chinese economy, these tariffs are, because they are the manufacturing superpower of the world. And this is what Trump wants to do. He wants to slap tariffs on all these countries, and 75 already have said, we're going to come to the negotiating table. We want to sell to the wealthy American public, and so we don't want tariffs on our goods. And Trump says, come to the table. I'm kind. I'm fair. I will negotiate with you. But if you don't negotiate with me, you're not going to be able to sell to the American public, right? And this is China's problem. So what is China now doing, right? They're actually, we're seeing the dollar, the US dollar, absolutely in a free fall. It's collapsing because somebody is selling US treasuries. Somebody big. It's not you and me, and it's not investors. It's not somebody like us. This is somebody big, like a country that's selling this amount of US treasuries to get it to free fall. We've never seen a free fall in the US dollar like this, like ever. So what's happening? If you look at some charts of gold purchases, for example, it's real interesting because over the last 3 weeks, you've seen, like yesterday, for example, gold goes up like $110 an ounce.
Yeah, but they said also, I saw one chart that showed as soon as the Chinese markets opened, gold surges again. That's
it. I mean, so this tells us what China is actually doing. Because last week you saw a huge gap in price, and it was $75 up. The week before it was like $65 up. Huge, massive gaps. Well, when does it happen?
Now we're seeing over $100 increases in a single day.
Exactly. And
Never
this
seen
isn't
this
happening.
before.
Yeah, this isn't happening during the middle of the trading day in the US markets. It's happening overnight. And these markets are opening up at these prices, which means when you look at when the Chinese gold market opens, it's when this explosion is happening. So where are they getting the money to buy all this gold? They're selling US treasuries, right? So this is where Xi might be thinking, okay, I know that I'm saying Trump's an absolute genius because he is. So he's probably thinking one of two things. Our economy stinks. We've got to sell anything that we have of value to make ends meet. So they're dumping US treasuries. Or he could be thinking, hey, we can't compete with Trump on the tariff playing field. So let's dump US treasuries. We have like almost $1 trillion worth of them. If we start to dump them on the open market, we can destroy the dollar. It'll come collapsing down in value. Well, what happens to us when this happens? See, when you have a weak dollar, it makes our exports more attractive all over the world. See, and I was talking about this 2 or 3 years ago, actually in Trump 1.0 administration. Trump, to increase our exports to everywhere else in the world, we need a weak currency. It doesn't mean America is weak. It just means relative to other currencies, they're stronger. It takes less of their currency to buy US goods if we have a kind of a weak dollar. So when Xi is doing this, dumping US treasuries, the value is coming down. This makes American goods less expensive all over the world and builds right into what Trump wants, which is make US goods cheaper. We're going to bring manufacturing back to America, which this isn't going to happen overnight. For crying out loud, we've got, like you said, over 40 years of bad presidents exporting jobs overseas so we could get cheap foreign junk.
Yeah, on both sides of the aisle, too. It's not even a partisan issue. It's Republicans and Democrats.
All of it. They were based on, hey, we're printing so much money because of the Federal Reserve and we're creating this inflation. Let's mask this inflation with cheap foreign goods coming in. So they were kind of like consumerism run amok, right? For 40 or 50 years. Well, when we bought cheap stuff, we have to remember one simple thing. Jobs always follow manufacturing. So if we're buying foreign stuff, our jobs are going overseas so they can make that stuff. And we have no jobs. So for Trump to actually change this, it's not going to happen overnight, which is why Bessent, why Lutnick, why Trump all said this isn't going to be Trump's economy for another 6 months. Do we have to go through pain to get to the point where people can replace expensive foreign junk with American goods. But we have factories that need to be retooled. We have a workforce that needs to be retrained because we've had 40 or 50 years of exporting jobs overseas. This isn't going to happen overnight.
Right.
But in time, it's going to be magnificent, right? And the only way that Trump loses, literally, to me, this is the only way he loses, is if he stops now. Right? Because if the globalist political pressure says you got to stop these tariffs, and Trump were to listen to Jerome Powell saying that all this stuff and this mayhem is Trump's fault, and because of that, we're going to have to.
He said he wanted to fire him, but he can't do that. He said he can't actually remove him. But people went crazy today because Trump said, "Oh, he should be fired."
Well, so much for an apolitical Federal Reserve, right? Jerome Powell is being so he's politicizing everything and blaming Trump's like, well, we're going to have to cut Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and all this stuff because of Trump's policies. It's like, no, you are being so political right now. Shame on you, right? And basically what's happening is something really extraordinary. And this is going to take a little bit of time for this to work out. But if Trump were to stop right now and listen to people like Jerome Powell and the globalist, banking cartel or whatever you'd want to call it, the markets have had a lot of correction, and we wouldn't win the trade war. It's like it's a lose-lose. But if he keeps pushing through, we win the trade war, jobs come back to America, everything grows, Trump wins. We all win. So to win this battle, you have to see it through till the end. But it's not going to be an overnight, magic elixir. It's going to take some time.
Can you explain to people what role gold and silver play in protecting people's wealth during these periods of economic turmoil and also global turmoil? For instance, with these Trump trade wars, because if you could explain to people who have maybe people watching right now have never invested into precious metals, they've never invested in gold and silver before. Why is now, or why is any time of economic turmoil a good time to invest in precious metals?
So two different things here that we should look at. Number one is on a governmental scale. So traders right now all over the world in gold and silver, they're not, and stocks and bonds, everything, they're not just hedging risk right now by going into gold and silver because it's going up. It's sovereigns. It's other countries that are insulating against a systematic reordering of the entire global monetary system. That's why countries do it. Now, how can we do the same thing that countries are doing? Well, you just do it on an individual level. You don't need to buy gold or silver by the ton or by the hundreds of tons or thousands of tons. You can buy it by the ounce, right? So when things around us are eroding and you've got inflationary pressures, again, simple concept, things go up with inflation. I don't care if it's a bicycle or groceries or gas or gold or silver, right? They're all things. So in an inflationary world, they go up. Well, we're in an inflationary world because governments have run out of money and they have to either increase taxes to generate revenue, which they can't. You increase taxes now and you're going to lose revenue because people are living at the margin. If you raise taxes when people are living month to month, they're going to stop spending, right? So you actually lose taxes. So therefore, they have to inflate or die. They just have to go to the printing presses and print. This is the world that we're living in right now. So as markets around us, traditional markets that everyone's used to, start crumbling, gold and silver are taking off. And it's not just because of Trump's tariffs. See, Laura, this started happening in 2022 by and large. So in 2022, what did Biden do that caused this massive global move towards gold and silver? It was after the Russia-Ukraine conflict started, Biden did two stupid things. Number one, well, he did all kinds of stupid things, but these were two stupid economic things, right? Number one was he kicked Russia out of the SWIFT system so they couldn't receive any international bank wires, thinks that he beat them. But number two, he confiscated all of the US dollars that Russia had. So what did Russia decide to do? Putin says, what? You're confiscating our US dollars. It's like, we're going to de-dollarize the world. How do you de-dollarize the world? You get rid of your US dollars and you start buying gold, something that has no counterparty risk. See, this is where we can get out of.
Well, also, another thing that he did too is he started supporting mass debanking of his political opposition as well. That caused a lot of people to want to invest in precious metals as well as the debanking movement, the censorship regime.
Yeah, so I don't see this move as being a speculative play. I see this as being a structural change to the global economy. And if you want safety and growth, which normally if you want high growth, you have to settle for high risk. If you want high safety, you have to settle for low growth, right? But we have both right now. We have safety and growth, which is what the world is looking at. Now, individually, we can do exactly what these central banks are doing and allocating into gold and silver. We can do what these big hedge funds, we can do what the billionaires are doing by just simply rolling over your IRAs or the money that you have in the bank account. When you're afraid that your banks are undercapitalized and they're running out of money, flee for safe ground. It's as simple as that. And so the mechanics are really easy to do that, which is why so many people are doing it. We're seeing not just like at our firm, obviously, this is what we do, but across the board, across the country and countries around the world, you're starting to see the demand for gold and silver skyrocket and the supplies are diminishing. When you have low supply, high demand, prices go up. This is why it's such an attractive thing for people to do right now when they're going to bed at night and they're afraid and they're listening to all this news. Tariffs are going to impact our society. We're going to have inflation. We don't know what to do, and Trump's ruining everything, right? This is what they're hearing. It's like, none of it's true, but fear causes people to do stupid things sometimes, right? It's either you're going to make the wrong decision or you're going to make no decision. What I'm telling people is don't ever operate out of fear, but out of logic and sound mind and out of reason, right? And you look at these fundamental patterns and these trends and the legislative action and the monetary policy and some of these black swan events that just come out of nowhere that start to create different trends and take advantage of those. So this is why people go into gold and silver during times like this. General rule of thumb, the worse things get, the more scary things get, the more turbulent things get, the better gold and silver do.
Are you seeing a lot more people contact you in the last couple of weeks since these tariffs have been implemented under the Trump administration? I mean, if you don't mind sharing some of your internals with my viewers right now, in terms of your call volume or the amount of inquiries that you're receiving. What does that look like over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, so I've been doing this since 2002. This is the industry that I've been in. We've got a very large, successful company. The busiest time that we've ever had as a country was when Silicon Valley Bank, or as a company, was when Silicon Valley Bank went down. People were afraid their banks were going to run out of money, right? And it's like, we got to get money out of the system. We got to go into gold and silver. This right now is starting to rival that. And I would venture to guess within the next 2 to 3 months, it will surpass that because our call volume is through the ceiling, right? And people are starting to look at like, we don't know what to do. When people don't know what to do something that's more certain, right? For example, are these tariffs going to demolish the stock market because people stop spending money on all these expensive goods, whether it's, car manufacturers and everything else? I mean, so when people stop spending, revenues come down. When revenues come down for companies, their stock values come down. So people are just starting to look at something that's safe and sound. And for millennia, this is what kings and kingdoms have fought after, is gold and silver. Why? Because it's real, right?
Right.
So
we're becoming a more technologically dependent society, and a lot of technological advancements depend on silver. And so there's also a shortage, moving over to silver now, as opposed to gold, there's also potential future shortages. And so how does supply constraints or mining challenges for gold and silver affect their long-term investment potential for somebody watching who may be interested in investing in gold or silver, and they want to know what the long-term investment potential is in case the stock market does bounce back?
Well, all the news is on gold right now, right? That gets all the media attention, and even Goldman Sachs have changed their projection of gold hitting $3,300 by the end of this year. It's like we're there right now. They changed it not just by a little, but to up to $4,500. And that's a massive change, right? But gold is a perfect barometer against governmental distrust, right? The more people distrust the government, the better gold does. General rule of thumb. Silver, on the other hand, does act like a financial metal like that, but as you just stated so well, it's a manufacturing metal, right? It's used for electronics. It's used for fuel cell technology and batteries for electric vehicles, and the nuclear industry and the military industrial complex, missiles and torpedoes. They use silver and solar power. Everything that we're seeing has high, basically, usage of silver. So silver, unlike something like aluminum, which you recycle, right? It's not really reclaimable. You don't recycle it. Once it's used, it's used. And the demand is going so high, the supplies are not really there, and the mining capacity is not there. For example, does Samsung's new battery technology that uses solid silver core technology will charge an electric vehicle in less than 9 minutes rather than like 12 hours. So within a couple of years, this is going to be the new technology. That's estimated to take up over 60% of the entire mining production of silver in a given year on one application, right? So the demand for silver is going up. And when we are locking in hundreds of trades every single day for clients, and we're calling the depository, we're seeing and feeling the supply chain disruptions, the low supply. Now, but I think it gets worse, Laura, because there's very few just silver mines in the world where all they do is mine silver. Silver mining is a byproduct of copper mining, right? So copper is used in all forms of industry and things like that. So as the global economy is slowing down, copper mining is not going to be needed. So therefore, there's going to be less silver. Right. So when you look at all of these fundamental forces that make this chart, like when you look at a chart for gold and silver, it's going up and it looks amazing. I don't care about the chart. The chart just is a snapshot description of what's happening. What causes a chart to look like a chart? It's legislative action. It's monetary policy. It's supply and demand. It's all of these things that's happening right now that I see massive growth moving forward for silver, more so than gold, because of the capacity constraints that we have because of manufacturing. So this is why our firm is recommending, I would go into silver right now, not gold. Even though gold is doing amazingly well, silver is poised for much better growth.
I know if people would have invested in gold the last time you came on my show, they would have had a massive gain this week.
They would. Well, not
it's
only
gone
this
up
week,
almost $1,000 since last time you were on my show.
I know it, and silver's gone up a lot too, and gold is going up. And you look at these.
But since you were last on my show, maybe not 1,000, maybe like $750 or so. But the price of gold has gone up over $750 since the last time you were on my show.
Well, and it's $3,300. It's not like it went up $750 and it's $30,000 an ounce. It's 3,000. I mean, that is massive growth. So last year, gold was up 27%. This year, it's already up 16% in the first quarter, right? So, and silver is right up there with it, right? And it's going to outperform. Over the years, silver has done better than gold. Right now, you're seeing gold do a little bit better than silver, but I don't think that's going to last very long because of the supply chain disruptions. And what we're seeing with these dynamics at the COMEX depositories, where all the silver is held, gold and silver used to be in London. It's now moving to COMEX, but to what end?
Right, but so what does that mean with the tariffs and with the disruptions and the supply chains as well? Last time you came on my program, you said that a lot of or most of the precious metals are actually coming from abroad.
Yeah.
And
They
so
are.
with the tariffs and the disruptions to the supply chain, what does that mean to somebody looking to invest or diversify their portfolio in gold or silver? I mean, we're talking about how it's a good time to invest, but but are they going to be able to keep up with the demand?
I don't think so. So when you look at what's happening, why is gold and silver leaving London and coming to America, right? It's like being repatriated for one, but COMEX, if you look at the amount of physical delivery as people get out of their futures contracts, they could either settle in cash or they could take physical delivery. The amount taking physical delivery is like nothing we've ever seen before. So people are wanting it, which means the supply available is leaving. And simple economics 101, when you have low supply and high demand, the prices go up. I don't see this pendulum shifting moment changing anytime real soon. It's been a structural change in the global economy. And for people who want safety and growth, I think this has many, many years, if not a decade plus of growth as the global monetary system is being changed. Now, people can say, well, are we going to tangible assets? Or are we going to cryptocurrency? You know, some kind of central bank digital currency or digital money? Yes and yes. We're going to both. Right. But the point is,
right. But even as we've seen enormous fluctuations with the crypto market as well, I've noticed that as crypto has gone down, crypto is almost following the market. Crypto is following the market now, whereas before it was kind of the opposite. Crypto is now following the market. And so we've seen crypto go down. And as crypto has gone down, we've actually seen gold and silver increase.
Yeah, I mean, this is a weird dynamic between
and I'm not
crypto
anti-crypto. I'm not anti-crypto at all. I mean, I think crypto is is good as well. But I have noticed that crypto now has become so popular that it's almost following.
It does.
It's almost following the dollar. Have you noticed that?
And I can't figure that out either. I mean, so I look at that, and when you look at cryptocurrency and gold and silver, they share a lot of the same fundamental reasons as to why people like them. They're private, you know, decentralized blockchain is private, gold and silver are private, and they offer growth. Now, in reality, they're completely different. One's digital and one's tangible, right? But so you would think as normal stock bond markets, normal equity and debt markets come down, that crypto and gold and silver would go up. Well, you're starting to see crypto correlate heavily with the stock market. As it goes down, crypto goes down. As it goes up, crypto goes up. Where gold and silver are holding true to their historical reason why people allocate into it is for safety. And the more turbulent things become, and again, Trump and Bessent and Lutnick said, this is going to be turbulent for a while. It's not our economy for another 6 months, right? So they knew that these tariffs and this economic warfare was going to be, it's going to bring change. Change always brings uncertainty, right? But doesn't mean that change is bad. This change is going to be good, but it's still uncertain. So you take advantage of that during this chapter that we're in by allocating into that safety and strength.
Any last comments or any, last words of advice you have for the viewers? I mean, I would encourage everybody first thing tomorrow morning to call the number on the screen. We have the landing page that you've created for the Loomer Unleashed viewers, kepm.com/Loomer. Let's get that up on the screen, kepm.com/Loomer. You have agents and staff available all day, pretty much every day, except Sundays, from my understanding, to take people's phone calls and answer their questions and their comments and concerns. But if you visit kepm.com/Loomer, says Kirk Elliott Precious Metals operates from Denver, Colorado, and serves clients across all 50 states. They have a contact form here. You can reach out, let them know that you were referred from Loomer Unleashed or Laura Loomer when you call them. We also have the number up on the screen, 720-605-3900. Again, 720-605-3900. $3,900. Some people will say, oh, why do you promote products on your show? You don't want to be a snake oil salesman. This isn't me being a snake oil salesman, you guys. Just look at the news, okay? Look at the news and look at the way that the market is responding right now, and you can see for yourself. This isn't me just trying to pitch you a product or to make you go and buy, gold and silver to support the sponsor of Loomer Unleashed. This is us giving you sound economic advice to, protect your financial future and to protect your wealth. And you can go look at any news report and go look at the markets yourself and see that gold is at a record high right now. And so, I would encourage people to give you a call tomorrow, Kirk Elliott Precious Metals, or visit the website.
Yeah, give us a call. We have a very, very, very hardworking team. I'm blessed that will bend over backwards to help you answer your questions.
Yeah.
It's not just enough to be in the right place at the right time, but understand why you're doing it, because that will bring peace of mind when you put your head down in the pillow.
And that's why I thought it was so important to have you on the program tonight, because it's been dominating the news cycle. And, I think that people need to understand, despite what some people say, oh, yeah, don't worry, Xi Jinping is going to crumble. They're going to crumble to Trump. No, not necessarily. I'm not saying that he's not going to crumble, but I don't think that people really understand how determined the CCP is for global domination. And so don't underestimate Xi Jinping or the willpower of the CCP and the Chinese people. I'm not undermining or doubting President Trump at all. I am not doubting President Trump's strategy. I support the tariffs, the concept of the tariffs and making the CCP, crumble at their knees. But the reality is this isn't going to be an easy fight, and it's not going to be something where China just throws in the towel anytime soon. And so I think that people need to take that into account and get wise about protecting their assets and protecting their financial future, which is why, I'm proud to be sponsored by Kirk Elliott Precious Metals, and why it's always great to have you on the program to hear your insights and your financial advice to our viewers, so that they can be ahead of the curve. And they were ahead of the curve. If you were watching the interview from, I think it was 3 months ago or so, when you came on right before the inauguration, we said everything that we said tonight, that, they're going to try to blame Trump for this economy. This is not his economy. This is, a recovering Biden economy. We're probably going to see tariffs. We're going to see the price of gold skyrocket. It's like we predicted everything that was going to happen 3 months ago. Everything we said was going to happen happened.
It did. And it's not like we're prophets. Trump said this was going to happen. And finally, we have a president in office who actually does what he says he's going to do. And so it's not too hard to predict some of these things.
But everything that you said when you were on my program, when I first interviewed you several months ago, turned out to be true to a T. So if people want to fact check that themselves, they can go watch the previous interview and see. And so I trust the information that you're, giving the viewers, and that's why we have you on. And so if you have questions, if you have comments, let's go to the chat actually and see if there's a couple questions or comments before we let you go tonight and move on with the rest of the program. Let's see. Does anybody have any questions for Dr. Kirk? Let's see. Somebody said Dr. Kirk is a cool dude. Good show. You've got some fans. Somebody said crypto is cool until the power goes out.
I mean, that's a good point. I mean, yeah.
Let's see. Scroll down. Silver is being used in a lot of technologies. Let's see. Somebody said, I'm surprised the U.S. can't process rare earths and China controls the entire processing capability.
I mean, they do. I mean, China absolutely commands and controls rare earths. I mean, and that's the one thing that they do have up their sleeve that they could really impact us with. But this is why Trump has to fight on these tariffs so much.
That's another problem with the Biden administration, though. I mean, look, they're the ones that helped facilitate the Chinese minerals deal with the Taliban.
I mean, people can blame Trump all that they want.
You know what I'm talking about? They blame Trump for everything, but nobody wants to talk about that. That happened under the Biden administration.
Yeah, everything that Trump is fixing happened under previous administrations, and he's fixing it. So, but you know what? Whoever is holding the bag when something goes down is going to get the blame for it, and they're going to try to pin everything on Trump because they've got their own agenda, and they're losing. They're absolutely losing, right? And so, when Trump wins, the global community actually is kind of loses everything. Right. So this is why there is this political, economic, almost spiritual battle happening right now, right underneath our nose.
Oh, and lastly, what I wanted to ask you about, I didn't get to ask you earlier, was your thoughts on President Trump's recent executive action. Let's go ahead and pull that back up again. I know we showed that earlier before you came on the program. Get this pulled up on the screen. Pull this up now. But President Trump, go to the White House. It's on the, right here. President Trump ensures national security and economic resilience through Section 232 actions and process critical minerals and derivative products. Thoughts on this order that was issued by President Trump on April 15th?
Yeah, I mean, so when you exempt a lot of things like gold and silver from a lot of these tariffs, right? It's because a lot of these things are critical, but when China is actually controlling a lot of the rare earth, basically materials that are used a lot in defense military applications, right? They could actually, and so how do you make sure that we still have access to these critical components that we need for defense and everything else? You have to actually bring the Chinese economy to its knees so they don't actually come back with some of these restrictive things on that. And so this is where it's actually not going to be pleasant, but it is easy to win. You just keep raising tariffs until China complies. And this is where Trump, when he wrote the book, The Art of the Deal, who knew that he'd be using that today so much? Because his negotiating power is like nothing I've ever seen. And executive orders like this that are going to keep America safe and secure and just equalize the playing field. I mean, a lot of people hate these tariffs. Well, if tariffs were so bad, then why does every country have them on American goods, right? It's like they're so you look at what he's doing. All he's saying is enough is enough. We've exported our power overseas for decades, and I just want it back. And so American can be everything that American voters and citizens and people who love freedom expect. And he's going to bring it. He's going to bring it really good for all of us.
Absolutely. Dr. Kirk, where do people follow you on social media if they want to see more of your work or learn more about your company? I know they can visit kepm.com/Loomer, kepm.com/Loomer. If you want to invest in precious metals, invest in silver and gold, be sure that you contact Kirk Elliott Precious Metals tomorrow. You can call them first thing in the morning, 720-605-3900. You can fill out the contact form on the website, kepm.com/Loomer, kepm.com/Loomer. As you see, Dr. Kirk Elliott and his company, they're not just selling precious metals, but also they are supporters of free speech. They are sponsors of the Loomer Unleashed program, and you sponsor a lot of other conservative shows as well. People who have been subjected to censorship. I know that you're a supporter of Alex Jones as well. So you have had a commitment to preserving free speech and preserving our freedoms. And he's not just helping protect your financial future, but he's also a patriot, and he's also helping to preserve free speech and fight back against the censorship regime.
Yep. You and Alex, you've been censored more than like anybody on the planet, right? And we just want to make sure that your voices of truth continue to be heard. You know, you go to the website, that's where you can find us, or on X, where it's just Kirk Elliott PhD. We have a lot of good content there too. So just Kirk Elliott PhD on X, or go to our website, kepm.com/Loomer, or give us a call if you have questions. We are here to help. We will bend over backwards to answer your question.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the program tonight. I really appreciate it. If you're watching, be sure that you call them tomorrow, 720-605-3900, or visit kepm.com/Loomer. Dr. Kirk, always great having you on. Thanks so much for joining me tonight.
You bet. My pleasure.
Let's go ahead and play my commercial for Kirk Elliott Precious Metals. This is the commercial that I was featured in for their company. I love this commercial. It has almost 1 million views on X. A very popular commercial.
Breaking news. Laura Loomer has been canceled. The President of the United States has refused to take her phone calls as he suspects she is soon to be arrested.
Is Laura Loomer the most hated person on planet Earth? We want to hear from you, the listener, and get your opinion on whether or not...
Man, I tell you, I heard she got canceled. We coming for you, bitch. We coming to your house, Laura Loomer. We know where you live. We coming for you right now. We coming for your friends. We coming for your friend's little dog.
Frankly, I hope they throw her away for the rest of her life. I hope she dies.
She is currently on the run from authorities. She is described as armed and dangerous.
I just can't believe she's been getting away with it for this. An angry mob appears to be forming outside the home of journalist Laura Loomer.
What is wrong with you? Why are you not panicking?
Because I called Kirk Elliott Precious Metals, and I learned how adding gold and silver to my portfolio is one of the safest ways to not just grow my finances, but to also protect them from the uncertainty of the future. So I'm fine.
Call economist Kirk Elliott at 720-605-3900 or schedule a call online at kepm.com/Loomer to learn how you can safely grow your retirement portfolio with precious metals.
Moving on now. If you've been following along with my legal case, you know that last week I was in Beverly Hills, California for my deposition of Bill Maher. I'm not allowed to talk about the contents of the deposition, which was recorded on video. But it's really funny because today their lawyer, the lawyer representing Bill Maher from Davis, Wright, and Tremaine, her name is Kate Bolger, actually contacted my attorney and said that they were going to be moving to ask the court to make the entire deposition confidential. So it's kind of funny, isn't it? Like, why don't they want the deposition to ever be made public? Why don't they ever want people to see what Bill Maher said on video? Kind of interesting, right? Like, why do they not want the public to see the truth and to see what Bill Maher had to say in the deposition? So, a little interesting update, but of course, this is only going to be increasing the attorney's fees and increasing the attorney's costs. HBO's deposition is going to be taking place next week, and then my deposition, I believe, is in June. So I'll be sure to keep you all updated on that, but I thought that it was kind of a funny situation. And then Davis, Wright, and Tremaine, the law firm representing HBO and representing Bill Maher in this defamation case that I filed, and go ahead and get this pulled up. They're actually scrubbing their website. They appear to be scrubbing their website. I exposed last week that Davis, Wright, and Tremaine is openly pro-Trump, openly anti-Trump. They actually had an article on their website. You can pull that up. It says President Trump's least favorite law firm, where they were, glorifying themselves for being the firm that was hired by all the Trump haters, right? From the Steele dossier to defending fake news CNN. They're the ones that represented George Stephanopoulos in the defamation case that President Trump filed against him, in which George Stephanopoulos was forced to settle, I believe, in December of 2024 to the tune of $15 million. ABC News and George Stephanopoulos had to settle with a $15 million settlement. And this is Davis, Wright, Tremaine. They're Trump haters, and they're the lawyers who HBO and Bill Maher decided to hire to fight my defamation case. So we'll see. I mean, perhaps they're worried that President Trump is going to sanction them or hold them accountable, because I caught them today scrubbing their website. So right after I posted this, like several days later, they've appeared to have scrubbed their website, which is kind of funny because, I guess they're probably really scared watching all these other law firms be held accountable by the Trump administration for representing people who participated in weaponized government, or they themselves, participated in weaponized government. Who knows? But it's not looking so good for Davis, Wright, and Tremaine. You can go ahead and play the video. This is a screen recorded video that I posted earlier on my X account, proving that they have deleted this article that I exposed on their website, from their website, after I made They're saying there's no sound. They're saying I'm muted. How long was it muted? The sound cut out. Where did you guys not hear? The sound appears to have shut off. Yes, but where did people leave off? I want to know where they... So they saw the video. They heard the video. But you heard me talking about Davis, Wright, and Tremaine. Go back to that article so that you can see what Davis, Wright, and Tremaine said. That's kind of strange. I'm not sure why the audio cut out there, you guys, but we'll go back and cover that. So you can see here that they have a Hollywood Reporter spread. Trump's least favorite firm, from the Steele dossier to defending fake news CNN, Davis, Wright, and Tremaine is fighting on the front line of the president's media war. Bragging about how they've represented the biggest Trump haters. They represented George Stephanopoulos in the defamation suit that President Trump filed against them when George Stephanopoulos falsely accused President Trump of being a rapist. And then he recently had to settle with President Trump for a $15 million donation to the presidential library. So again, they represent the worst people. And what I was saying before the sound somehow turned off is that Davis, Wright, and Tremaine, this anti-Trump law firm, contacted my attorney and I today. They're representing Bill Maher and they're representing HBO, and they are fighting. And now they're moving to ask the judge in our case to seal the deposition indefinitely. They don't want anybody ever being able to see what Bill Maher said in this video deposition that was recorded on video when I was in Beverly Hills for this deposition on April 4th. And you have to ask yourself if everything that he said under oath during that deposition is true, why is it that they want the deposition sealed? Why do they not want people being able to see what Bill Maher said on video during this deposition regarding the defamation case? Why is it such a secret? Why does everything have to be sealed? So it's a little strange, I think. But I was explaining that, after the deposition, I had exposed the fact that they were openly bragging about being an anti-Trump law firm. They're openly bragging about how they're super anti-Trump. And when I posted publicly about how a lot of these anti-Trump law firms have been sanctioned and held accountable by the Trump administration in executive orders, they then scrubbed this article from their website. So let's go ahead and play the clip, because I understand that there were some audio issues and I want to make sure that everybody heard the clip. It's very weird. I don't know how that happened, but let's go ahead and play the clip. Now it says page not found. So they went from bragging to the Hollywood Reporter about how Trump's least favorite firm is Davis, Wright, and Tremaine, and how they were soliciting their services to the biggest Trump haters in the world. And now that Trump's back in office and people like myself are putting a spotlight on this, they want to hide this. They want to scrub their website. They want the Trump administration to not know that Davis, Wright, and Tremaine loves the fact that they're anti-Trump. They wanted to bask in the spotlight during the first Trump administration of being anti-Trump and working against his administration. But now that Trump is taking action against these law firms, they're running scared. So I'll keep you updated as this case proceeds. My deposition is going to be in a few weeks. I know that the deposition of HBO, my lawyer is going to be deposing the HBO representative next week, I believe, in New York. So it should be very interesting. But these are some of the most unethical lawyers in America, these employees of Davis, Wright, and Tremaine, some of the most low-life, unethical people you'll ever meet in your life. Just look at their clients. Just look at the filth, the people that they represent. They even have a page on their website now, helping you navigate a post-election uncertainty in 2025. Insight and analysis from Davis, Wright, and Tremaine. Translation: if you want to work against President Trump and his administration, we're the law firm for you. I mean, that's essentially what that page is trying to convey. They've bragged extensively about the fact that Trump's biggest enemies all hire their law firm, right? So I hope that the Trump administration takes action against Davis, Wright, and Tremaine. It would serve them right. Hopefully teach them a lesson. They definitely deserve to be taught a lesson, that's for sure. Let's go to the chat, since you couldn't hear before. What do you guys think? Why do you think that Davis, Wright, and Tremaine is scrubbing their the lawsuit information from their website? Why do you think that they went from bragging in a Hollywood Reporter op-ed on their website about how they're the most anti-Trump law firm in America to now deleting the page just days after I put a spotlight on it on my X account? Post your comments below. I would love to hear your analysis of this. I think that they're running scared, personally. I really honestly think that a lot of these law firms are shitting their pants, wondering whether or not President Trump is going to take action against them. That's what I think. I think they should be scared too, because President Trump is doing a phenomenal thing by holding these law firms accountable. Any law firm that has participated in weaponized government, any law firm that has participated in attacks on the Trump administration should be held accountable. They absolutely should be held accountable. And that's what President Trump is doing. He's holding them accountable. So, hey, you play stupid games, you're going to win stupid prizes. And I think that Davis, Wright, and Tremaine is in the fuck around phase right now, and they're about to get into the find out phase. So I guess we'll stay tuned to see what happens. But if I were a betting woman, I would probably take a bet that we're going to see some action against Davis, Wright, and Tremaine in the coming weeks. But what do I know? I'm just a conspiracy theorist, right? We'll see. We'll see what happens. I just personally don't think that Donald Trump is going to let a lot of these firms get away with it. I don't think he's going to let them get away with it. You know, over the last few weeks, received a lot of media attention, a lot of focus on my vetting of some of these nefarious individuals who are occupying space, unfortunately, in the Trump administration. So I figured that I wanted to have a new segment on the show. And going forward on the show, we're going to have a news segment. I don't know exactly what I'm going to call it yet. Probably something along the lines of White House vetting crisis, you know, with a dramatic subtitle. Who knows? I don't know what I'm going to do yet. But there has to be more attention and focus on the vetting crisis, the lack of vetting, the vetting disaster that's happening every single day in the Trump administration. I mean, this is just, you know, this is like a chronic illness within the Trump administration now, where you have a lack of vetting that is really concerning. And so today's example of a vetting crisis, we might as well start this week before I come up with the official name of this segment, right? But just to highlight this week's example of the vetting crisis, I broke this story earlier tonight before going live on Loomer Unleashed. And again, we are live right now. So if you're watching on Rumble, please be sure that you share the Rumble link, rumble.com/Laura Loomer, rumble.com/Laura Loomer, or share the link on X as well. Follow me on X at Laura Loomer or on X at Loomer Unleashed. The U.S. Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, posted a tweet the other day. Let's go ahead and get this tweet pulled up on the screen. I'm going to pull it up on my phone too, so that you can follow along. He posted this tweet on April 3rd, 2025. And the tweet said, let's open it up. You can scroll up right there. Yep, right there. Click on that. Financial literacy is a necessity, not a luxury. To kick off Financial Literacy Month, I had a great meeting with my longtime friend, John Hope Bryant, who is collaborating with us at U.S. Treasury on the Financial Literacy for All initiative. We look forward to working together to help deliver quality financial tools and knowledge to empower all Americans. You can scroll down and you can see the photo of the guy that he posted the photo with. You can scroll back up. So that guy right there, the black guy in the photo, his name is John Hope Bryant. Well, who is John Hope Bryant, right? You'd think that if somebody was going to be brought into the Trump administration and the U.S. Treasury Department, of all places, and here we have Scott Bessent saying that John O'Brien is his longtime friend. I mean, you can literally see it says right there, my longtime friend. Then you would think that he would do some vetting on his longtime friend. Or if he truly was a longtime friend, generally speaking, we all know the political affiliations of our longtime friends. I mean, I don't go around calling anybody my friend, right? There's acquaintances, there's people I know, there's people that want to say, oh, I'm friends with Laura Loomer. And then I get these phone calls from people that say, oh, you know, so-and-so said they're friends with you. It's like, I haven't talked to so-and-so in 3 years, but sure, whatever. Yeah, I met them at a party one time, or I met them at a political function. There's a big difference between an acquaintance, okay, a colleague, or, you know, an employee, or, you know, there's different classifications for people. You have your significant others, your family members, your best friends, your colleagues, your advisors, whatever, right? There's a million different things that you can call people. Scott Bessent went out of his way to say that John Hope Bryan was his longtime friend. So if somebody's your longtime friend, like my longtime friends, I know where they stand politically. I do. I know which of them. I mean, I don't really have a lot of friends who are left-leaning, to be honest, but I know what the political views are of my closest friends. Something that I talk about with my closest friends, especially as a political person like Scott Bessent is, an economic person, a financial person like Scott Bessent is. His longtime friends have probably had conversations that relate to politics and the economy with Scott Bessent, who is now our Secretary of the Treasury. Why do I bring this up? Well, because it should be very disturbing for people watching this to see how closely and how quickly Trump haters, people who were tweeting just days up until the 2024 presidential election, their disdain and contempt for President Trump. It should really concern everybody that Trump haters like John Hope Bryant are now able to walk into the Treasury Department and work with a senior cabinet member. It's just totally out of control. And this guy, as I'm about to show you, is really good friends with Anthony Scaramucci, who was thrown out of the White House, you recall, during the first administration, who has been, you know, has become a rabid Trump hater, constantly attacking Donald Trump, constantly speaking badly about his time in the Trump administration. Was writing op-eds in support of Kamala Harris in the days leading up to the presidential election of 2024, which John Hope Bryant himself shared. Actually, let's go ahead and pull up some of my tweets so that people can see these receipts. Because, look, I'm going to have an unlimited amount of content. The good thing about the Trump administration being full of incompetent people that don't know how to do a basic vet is that I'm never going to run out of content, right? I may not ever work for Trump in an official capacity because of jealousy and gatekeepers within the administration. But because so many of these people who work for him are just like total morons and they don't know how to do basic vetting, I'm never going to run out of content as an investigative journalist, right? I'm never going to run out of content. And hey, who knows? Maybe my political consulting firm, Loomer Strategies, is never going to run out of content either, because at this rate, there's going to be a lot of people to investigate, you know? White House vetting crisis continues as Trump-appointed U.S. Treasury Secretary invites pro-impeachment Trump hater to collaborate with him at the Treasury Department. You can open up that tweet. Scott Bessent invites pro-impeachment and pro-censorship Trump hater to collaborate with him at the U.S. Treasury. Scroll down. Trump-appointed U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent invited rabid Trump hater John Hope Bryant to work with him at the U.S. Treasury, despite John Hope Bryant's public praise of former Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey for banning President Trump's X account on January 8th, 2021 after J6. Bessent called John Hope Bryant his longtime friend in the X post below on 4/3/25. Here's the evidence that John Hope Bryant celebrated the deplatforming of President Trump and called for Donald Trump to be impeached 2 days after. John Hope Bryant also called on Trump to resign after J6, but he has since been brought into the Trump admin by his good friend Scott Bessent. Okay, let's scroll down and look at these screenshots. So a tweet on January 8th, 2021, that's 2 days after the January 6th Capitol protests. Finally, common sense rings. Thank you, Jack, at the team and the team at Twitter, including Ned Siegel and leadership for simply doing the right thing, holding Mr. Trump to the same standard as all else. Justice cannot be just us. So, of course, what happened on January 8th? Well, it was the day that true free speech and democracy died in America. That is when all of the big tech social media companies collaborated and conspired together in a conspiracy to silence the president of the United States by deplatforming him. The most un-American thing I think that I have ever witnessed with my own eyes as an American citizen. That day will live in infamy. It is the day that free speech truly died in America, when people sat by and did nothing as the leader of the free world, the president of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump, was deplatformed as the sitting United States president by all social media companies. And here you have this piece of shit, John Hope Bryan, who is a longtime friend of Scott Bessent, by his own words, who was invited to collaborate at the U.S. Treasury Department under the new Trump administration. Vetting crisis. I need to get like an alarm. You know how they have those little buttons? You know how Trump has a Diet Coke button on his desk? I need to get a button that makes a crazy noise. Or maybe we need to, you know, Cannon, my producer, we need to get some kind of sound animation so that every time I want to do a segment on a vetting crisis or talk about the morons in the Trump administration who are, you know, not doing proper vetting, we're able to like blast the sound. Can we get some kind of sound animation? I want to get a sound animation. Put your comments in the chat about what you think that sound should be, because I definitely think that we need some animations for these revelations. Someone said Loomer is in hurt mode. No, this is just me being normal. This is me being normal. This is me on a regular day. Semi-caffeinated, not even fully caffeinated. It's not that I'm hurt. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that people are aware of these failures in the Trump administration. They're aware of these deficiencies, which is creating a crisis for the Trump administration, and yet nobody wants to do anything to address it. The only person who's going to get hurt from this situation is Donald Trump, okay? Because he's going to be surrounded by snakes and people who want to sabotage him. He's going to be surrounded by people that want to obstruct his agenda. So if anybody's going to get hurt, it's going to be President Trump, because he's surrounding himself with people who are not looking out for him. He's surrounding himself with people who don't know how to do basic vetting. So let's go back. All the sound issues good now. Just want to make sure we don't have any more sound issues. I'm not sure why the sound cut out earlier, but be sure that if you can't hear, there's audio issues, be sure that you just post it in the comments so that we can fix it. But it looks like everything is good right now. Let's go back to this X post, because it gets even worse. You know, it's like, wait, there's more. You know, those commercials that we used to see on TV? I think it was like for OxyClean. But wait, there's more. How I feel every single time I'm exposing these traitors that find their way into the Trump administration. But wait, there's more. It gets worse. Here he is. A compromise to a necessary impeachment might be: 1, Mr. Trump agrees to resign on his own, or 2, a complete repudiation by ours, he's talking about Republicans, including resignation of his White House team, all senior officials. So he wanted all senior officials who work for Trump. Some of those people are still working for Trump today, by the way. Some of them aren't, because a lot of them, you know, were disloyal and went to go work for Ron DeSanctimonious, as we saw. But a lot of those senior officials still work for Trump. So how does this guy feel? Is he's going to walk into the White House and walk into the Treasury Department, and he's going to call for these loyalists, these Trump loyalists, to resign? Because this DEI hire by Scott Bessent just wants to, you know, proclaim that Donald Trump should resign, or that he should be impeached because he was fighting for election integrity and fighting against the stolen election of 2020. I thought that we were getting rid of DEI, and then we get to have these uppity blacks just walk into the Trump administration and start making demands and acting like they run the Treasury Department, and that they should have like an active role in the Trump administration while they sit around and try to undermine every initiative that Donald Trump has worked on. And they run to the media and trash him, and they post these snarky tweets attacking him and his advisors. I mean, we were told that the Trump administration was getting rid of DEI, and this guy's entire focus is running a foundation with a focus on appointing black people to positions of power. In what world are we going to just appoint people to positions of power or encourage people to be made executives or CEOs in our country because they're black? I mean, this is not an extension of the Obama administration. And yet you have people who subscribe to that mentality. And I'm sure I'll get ripped for calling him an uppity black man, but I don't care. It's the truth. You have this uppity black liberal man, this elitist, uppity liberal black man walking into the Treasury Department, acting like he should have a seat at the table because of the color of his skin, talking about financial literacy when he's done nothing to contribute to the health of our country or the health of our economy, or done nothing to help get President Trump elected. In a previous tweet I posted, you could see that 3 days before the presidential election, he was posting op-eds that were written by Scaramucci talking about how his wife almost divorced him because he went to go work for Trump. Last time I recalled, it wasn't because he went to go work for Trump. It was because he couldn't keep his dick in his own pants. But hey, I guess we're all a fan of revisionist history. Let's go ahead and show that tweet. Everybody loves rewriting history. Oh, I couldn't keep my dick in my pants. I was fucking other women while my wife was pregnant. But let's blame it on Trump because everything is Trump's fault, right? Can't keep your cock in your pants? Trump's fault. Your dog got diarrhea? Trump's fault. It rained outside today? Your hair got wet? Trump's fault. Everything is Trump's fault. You can scroll down some more. I think that's a little bit lower. Right there. Here we go. Kind of strange, isn't it, how Scott Bessent brought on John Hope Bryant to work with him under the Trump admin for financial literacy. 3 days before the 2024 election, John Hope Bryant was sharing anti-Trump articles written by his friend Scaramucci. The article was about, you can open the tweet up more. Scroll up. Yeah, just open the tweet, like actually open the tweet text. Yeah. Where did I leave off? The article was about how Scaramucci regrets working for Trump and how he was focused on helping raise awareness about why people shouldn't vote for Trump and should instead vote for Kamala Harris. John Hope Bryant called this anti-Trump article a solid piece 3 days before the presidential election. And again, I thought we banned DEI from the Trump administration. It's kind of interesting that, we have this individual whose organization focuses on placing people of color into executive level positions. Like, you don't just get to go work in corporate America or go work for the United States government because you're black. You got to actually work for it. So I don't know. I thought that this administration was focused on merit, but then Scott Bessent is friends with all these DEI promoting individuals like John Hope Bryant, who have a history of donating to Democrats. And, it's like, what's going on here? And so I said, just, very point blank, why do we need a woke black guy who hates Trump and was dumb enough to support Kamala Harris working with the new Treasury Secretary on financial literacy, right? And financial literacy is just another, it's another woke initiative. It's another DEI initiative. They're trying to insinuate that people of color in this country don't have the skills to understand the economy, or don't have the skill set to understand concepts like the national debt. And the reality is there's a lot of white people in this country who don't understand it either. There's also a lot of black people who have perfect understanding of this. So they're trying to make financial literacy a racial concept. And if you look at this guy, John Hope Bryant, they can deny it all they want and say that they're not talking about DEI and they're not talking about race when they talk about financial literacy programs. But if you look at this guy, he's on the Breakfast Club, which is a black radio program. He's like going on all these different liberal shows on MSNBC, CNN, and he's, talking primarily about the black community. And so I just think that now that we're in this new golden age of America, we need to be focused on America first, not black people first, not Hispanic people first, right? Not this group of people first, not trannies first, right? But Americans first, right? We need to start putting the American people first. And we definitely don't need to be elevating people who have a documented history of working against the president of the United States in these positions of power. So let's scroll down and you can take a look at what he said. So here we go. He said, a solid piece on my friend Scaramucci, worth a read. Anthony Scaramucci, when I took the Trump job, my wife filed for divorce. I'm pretty sure, though, that Anthony Scaramucci was, from my understanding, I think he was having affairs. So let's go back and type it in. Let's type in Anthony Scaramucci affairs. I thought he was having affairs. No, you could just do it on Google. I don't know if it's going to show up on X, but let's go ahead and type it in Google. Anthony Scaramucci affairs. So scroll up. You can see. Click on that. Let's go back to the People magazine. Anthony Scaramucci denies he had an affair with Fox host and explains why, scroll up, I was reading that title, why he didn't rush to see his newborn son. Anthony Scaramucci, whose wife filed for divorce after he joined the Trump administration, denies having a sexual relationship with Kimberly Guilfoyle. So look, like, I like Kimberly Guilfoyle. Kimberly Guilfoyle is a friend of mine and she's a friend of the show. But I remember that, and look, she was not married at the time. So I remember that there was a lot of talk about whether or not they were dating and they were together. And at the time, I believe Anthony Scaramucci's wife was like 9 months pregnant, right? And so this definitely occupied a lot of space in the news media. This was, of course, before Kimberly Guilfoyle and Don Jr. were dating and while she was still working at Fox. And so he can blame Donald Trump all he wants for why his wife filed for divorce. But I think he needs to take a little bit of self-reflection into his own personal behavior. Again, I like Kimberly Guilfoyle. She's a friend of mine. I'm specifically focused on Anthony Scaramucci's claims that his wife tried to divorce him because he took a job with Trump. I don't really think that the people in Trump's inner circle or the people who were privy to all the details of who Anthony Scaramucci was hanging out with during that time are going to confirm that story that Trump is the reason why his wife filed for divorce. I think it had to do with other things, Anthony. But again, revisionist history. I understand that nobody who attacks President Trump wants to actually take responsibility for their actions. But moving on, let's go back to the X account. Let's see what people in the chat have to say as well about this. It's kind of funny, isn't it? It's really funny. Oh, I can't keep my cock in my pants. Let's blame Donald Trump. My wife wanted to divorce me because I can't keep my penis in my pants. Let's blame Donald Trump. My dog took a shit today and I stepped in it. Oh, let's blame Donald Trump. Everything is Donald Trump's fault. I was in the kitchen and I got distracted on my phone and I burned my steak on the stove. God damn it. Must be Trump's fault. It's just so unbelievable. There's just such a lack of vetting. Let's go back to the X account and you can see what he said. So you can see the timestamps on that. So look, let's open that again, that photo. You see right there, the date on that. If you scroll up a little bit, because you can't see it on this big screen, scroll up on the photo so people can see the date on the bottom of it. Okay, it says 11/2/2024. So November 2nd, 2024, 3 days before the presidential election, okay? 3 days before the 2024 presidential election. What is he saying? John Hope Bryant, scroll up and click on it again. When I took the Trump job, my wife filed for divorce. A solid piece on my friend Scaramucci, worth a read. John Hope Bryant. And then go to the next image, and then you can see what the subtitle of the article was. The mooch is the Wall Street bro who lasted 11 days as the White House comms director. Now he's back as a podcast pundit, helping Kamala Harris get her head around crypto and warning America about his old boss. So this guy who Scott Bessent just brought into the Trump administration to work with him and collaborate with him on a financial literacy project 3 days before the presidential election was calling this article attacking President Trump and promoting Kamala Harris and helping her get around crypto initiatives, saying that this was a solid piece. I mean, this guy, John Hope Bryant, is a Trump hater through and through. There's more receipts, though, in case you're not entirely sold. I mean, it's really sad that I have to do the vetting for the Treasury Secretary. It's pretty unbelievable that the Treasury Secretary of our country doesn't know how to do any vetting. I really hope this doesn't mean that we're going to have a financial catastrophe in this country. It's not really a good sign going forward. But a lot of people in the Trump administration don't seem to know how to do any vetting, right? It's always an excuse, though. It's never anybody's fault. There's no accountability with officials in the Trump administration. It's always like, oh, you know, this person is attacking because they're jealous. They don't have a job in the Trump administration. Oh, this isn't accurate. This isn't real. This isn't real. It's like you can only make excuses during your White House press conferences so many times about how a scoop isn't really a real scoop or this is a manufactured story by the media before people just start calling you out for lying to the American people about the incompetence of some of your own appointees. I mean, some of these people are just purely incompetent. Can we just have an honest conversation about it? I'm a Trump supporter. I love Donald Trump. I would take a bullet for Donald Trump. But can we please have a conversation about how incompetent some of his staff are, starting with the vetting crisis, okay? Because eventually it's going to be so bad it's going to lead to impeachment, or it's going to lead to, I don't know, some catastrophic scandal that there's no going back from. And I really, hate to see that day happen, or hate to watch that day approach, but that's where we're headed with the lack of vetting and the incompetence by some of these officials in the Trump administration. And I don't understand why I have to be the one to say it. Watch, in a few weeks, it's going to be like Laura Loomer informs President Trump about, moles brought in by U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. And then, we're going to see another 2 weeks of obsessive news coverage about a meeting I had with President Donald Trump in the Oval Office, right? I mean, why is it that I have to do this job? Aren't there people that are paid the big bucks, the geniuses? I thought we were told only the best people go and work for Donald Trump. Remember they said that we were not the best people, because they already had the best people. You can't work for Trump, Laura. You got to be the best. You're not the best. I was told that the best people have this covered. Apparently they don't. Who are these geniuses working for Donald Trump that have the vetting covered? Because they're doing a shit job. Okay? They're doing a shit job. This is not vetting. Okay? This is really shitty work being done by whoever's in charge of making sure that people like John Hope Bryan don't get into the Trump administration. But here he is. He's in the Trump administration because the geniuses, the best and brightest. Trump only hires the best people. They've got it under control, you guys. Let's go to the chat. I want to see what your comments about this, and then we're going to show you even more receipts. Let's see. Scroll down. Some people said Bessent himself has some questionable things. Yeah, Marnie makes a good point. A great question. Is it a mistake or is it intentional? They said Sergio Gore's in charge of vetting. Yeah, and I like Sergio. Sergio's a friend of mine. But a lot of these agency heads are doing their own vetting. And so Sergio doesn't have control of that. If you have people like Mike Waltz or Scott Bessent who want to overstep Sergio and his authority, and they want to do their own vetting or bring in their own people, bypassing Sergio. So they can't just blame Sergio Gore for everything. They can't blame Susie Wiles for everything. At some point, these agency heads or these cabinet picks have to be held accountable for their own vetting disasters and bringing in their friends, their shithead liberal friends, as President Trump has once said, right? I believe President Trump once, during his first administration, described it as someone's shithead liberal friends. But look, a lot of these people are bringing in their shithead liberal friends, and that's what's happening. It's crazy. It's just crazy to me that people like this can get in the administration. There's even more screenshots, though. Let's go back to my X account. I believe I posted a couple more tweets earlier about this guy. Let's go back. Let's see which other ones. That was the first one, so scroll up. Let's see. We have a couple more. Okay, right here. Here's another one. Exclusive. Trump appointed U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent invited rabid Trump hater and Russia collusion conspiracy hoax promoter John Hope Bryant to work with him at the U.S. Treasury, despite John Hope Bryant's long history as a Trump hater and Democrat donor. And then, of course, no reply from Scott Bessent. He loves going on the MAGA podcast, loves talking to the MAGA base. Well, here I am, Scott. I'm up in your face, Scott. Why don't you give us a response, Scott, about why you are inviting Trump haters to come work with you at the U.S. Treasury? Please. Why are you inviting Trump hater John Hope Bryant to work with you in the Treasury? I wonder what President Trump is going to say when I show him the comments made by your longtime friend. His words, not mine. You saw it. Longtime friend. His own words, you guys. Scroll down. Here he is celebrating the stolen election of 2020, saying nobody likes Trump. I guess all of us watching tonight. How many people do we have watching live right now? Let's see. How many people do we have on Rumble? We have 52,000 people watching on X. How many people are watching on Rumble right now? We have more people watching on X. So we have like 54,000 people watching right now. I guess none of us like Trump, you guys, because John Hope Bryan, the longtime friend of the Trump-appointed U.S. Treasury Secretary, says nobody likes Trump. Nobody likes Trump, apparently, you guys. I guess we're nobody. I guess we're nobody. I guess we're nobody, you guys. Let's go back to the screenshots. It gets even worse. And if you're watching this, please be sure that you're posting the live link, share it, because it's really important that people get this information. You're not going to see this on Fox, or maybe you will 2 years from now when they decide to scroll back in the Loomer archives and steal my stories like they always do. But here you go. Here we have the screenshot, right? Wow, basically what I just said, almost 80 million people just don't like the man and said, bye-bye, Mr. Trump. Celebrating the stolen election. Let's click on the other tweet right next to it. The tweet next to it. The screenshot next to it. Russia and Trump share the same goal, the denigration of the U.S. democratic system. That's what he said. And then he promoted Russia conspiracy hoax bullshit. U.S. report says Putin approved operations to help Trump against Biden. Why do we want people that are promoting Russian conspiracy theory hoaxes that have been disproven to work in the Trump administration? I don't understand this. Like, how does somebody like me get blocked from working in the administration despite President Trump's own directives to hire me 4 times, but then somebody like this, who's openly celebrating the stolen election, gets to go work in the Trump administration? Like, what's going on in the Trump administration? Who's in control of, you know, of making sure that people are properly vetted? What is this? This is embarrassing. This is embarrassing. This is a total joke. What an absolute joke. Anyway, like I said, they have a lot of incompetent people working in the Trump administration who clearly don't know how to do research. They don't know how to do vetting. But that's good for me because I'm never going to run out of content. I'm never going to run out of content. I'm never going to run out of things to share with President Trump. And I'm sure President Trump is going to be really happy to learn about the fact that his trusted genius cabinet picks are bringing on a bunch of Trump haters to come work for him. I'm sure he's going to love it. I'm sure it's going to just make him so happy, you guys. Let's go back to the X account. We have one more post to show you his political donations, and then I'm going to be putting out a more detailed report about it too. Let's go to the top of my timeline. Scroll down a little bit. There we go. Let's open that one. John Hope Bryant, associated with Operation Hope and Bryant Group Ventures, has made several donations to Democrats over the years. In 2022, Bryant contributed $500 to Sanford Bishop for Congress in Georgia. In 2020, he donated $500 to Trump hater Raphael Warnock for Georgia, and another $500. Okay, and Warnock has basically accused Donald Trump of being a white supremacist. So this guy donated to somebody who accused Donald Trump of being a white supremacist, by the way. And another $500 to the Warnock Victory Fund, as well as $250 to Sanford Bishop for Congress. In 2016, under the name Hope Bryant, he gave $500 to Hillary for America. So he supported Biden in 2020. He supported Hillary Clinton in 2016. He supported the Democrats taking the Senate in 2020. And in 2008, Bryant donated $500 to Obama for America. Here's the receipts. Let's scroll down just so everybody sees the fact check in real time. Let's open that. John Hope Bryant, Operation Hope, Bryant Group Ventures, all the donations. Obama for America, Hillary for America, Sanford Bishop for Congress, Warnock Victory Fund. There you have it. This guy is a longtime friend. Why would Scott Bessent be friends with somebody like this? Why is the U.S. Treasury Secretary friends with somebody that supports Obama and supports Hillary Clinton and supports Raphael Warnock and supports the impeachment of Trump and thinks that he and his staff should resign over January 6th? Like, doesn't anybody, when they're doing vetting... Oh, wait, that's right. There's no vetting. I forgot. There's no vetting whatsoever. There's no vetting being done at all in this administration. That's a given. That's very obvious to me at this point in time. But if we did have actual proper vetting taking place, wouldn't anybody sit there and think to themselves, maybe it's not a good idea to have somebody in the government who said that Trump advisors should resign over J6. Maybe it's not a good idea to have somebody working in the Trump administration who's best friends with Anthony Scaramucci. I don't know. Again, I was told that only the best people get to work for President Trump, you guys. So I guess we're just going to have to leave this to the geniuses who work for him. They're going to have to figure this one out. I don't even know if they know how to do this research, to be honest with you. I'm not trying to be an asshole either. I really honestly don't know if some of the people who work for the president know how to do a basic FEC search. I really don't. I don't know what qualifies somebody to be a genius. I'm going to have to find out someday what it means to be the best and the brightest and a genius so that you can go work for the Trump administration. Let's go to the chat before we close out tonight. I want to get your comments on this. Stay tuned because every single week, you guys, I'm going to have a segment like this. I'm going to have a segment on the vetting crisis in the White House. So you'll be able to hear all about the Trump administration vetting crises and their vetting failures on a weekly basis by subscribing to Loomer Unleashed. I'm never going to run out of content. And I sleep really well at night knowing that at least I'll never run out of content. Let's scroll up and see what a couple people are saying. Oh, God. It's just so crazy. It gets me so worked up, you know? By the time I do my show, my blood pressure elevates all the way up here. I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I'm gonna have a heart attack at the end of my shows because I just get so worked up about this stuff. It's just so frustrating, you know? It's so frustrating to me. It makes my blood boil. Really. Let's scroll up a little bit more, see what people are saying. They're like, oh, where does he find these people? I don't know. I don't know where they find these people, honestly. Tiffanol said, Laura, the GOP is trying to shut out MAGA like they did the Tea Party. Let's scroll up. Yeah, it's really concerning. Definitely very concerning that this is allowed to happen. So again, I'm going to keep on monitoring this. I have a lot more people that are working in the Trump administration now that I'm going to be exposing this week for, vetting failures. And I'm just going to start putting everybody on blast. I don't care. I'm just going to have to start exposing everybody in every agency because it's an embarrassment. We have to expose these people now from the get-go before we get deep into the Trump administration because we have to at least create a record so that if these people do something subversive during the Trump administration, I'll be able to at least pull the receipts and say, I told you so. Right? I'll be able to say, look, I told you so. This is something that I uncovered, that I exposed, that you people wanted to obstruct and you wanted to hide from the president of the United States of America because you are subversive, because you don't actually support the president's agenda. So at least I'll get the peace of mind knowing that I documented everything, that I have records of everything, I have screenshots of everything so that if everything goes to shit, and they sabotage Donald Trump with another coup, I'll at least be able to say, you know what? I did my best and I tried to warn everybody and I did what I could to fight for President Trump and it's not my fault. It's going to suck at the end of the day if they're able to stage another coup against him, but at least I'll know that I warned them and I gave them ample warning and warning time and information and research. And it's going to really suck to watch everything that we fought for get flushed down the drain again. But you know what? There's only so many times I can say I told you so before I just blow my brains out because I'm just so frustrated by it all. And I think that it's driving a lot of people crazy, like the constant gaslighting from people in the administration, the constant gaslighting from people like Pam Blondie and, all of the Fox News interviews, no accountability, nobody's getting fired, nobody's going to jail, right? Nobody's going to jail. It's just, there's no accountability whatsoever. So we're just going to have to hope that the people that are in these positions are just going to use their positions of power to inform the president about these things because I'm not going to be able to be with President Trump every single day. Unfortunately, I wish I could. I wish I could be there in the White House to inform the president. But look, a lot of people around him just don't want to give him information that is going to help him. I've proven that. It's Tish James' story that they're pushing out, trying to pretend like it's a news story. We alerted the Trump campaign to that. CCP Skip Tracer, who's a Loomer Unleashed contributor who comes on my show often, we alerted the Trump campaign to that over a year ago. Why did they sit on this information if they knew during the trial, the Engoron trial, that Tish James was guilty of what Trump was accusing her of? Why did they hide the information? Why did they act on it? So, again, there's a lot of bad actors surrounding President Trump, and it's only going to get worse, unfortunately. Let's scroll down, close it out with some comments and questions. It's just very disappointing to me. I hope that I'm not the only one, though, that gets this animated about it. So hopefully if you feel the same way I do, or you feel just as outraged by all of this as I do, post a 1 in the chat, because sometimes I sit here and I'm like, you know, it's not very healthy to get this worked up about this, but it's like every day I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh my God, it's going to just get worse, isn't it? But yeah, trying to do what I can do. And even when I do warn the president and I have my meetings with him, they always leak it. Somebody told CNN where I was going to be, and as I was walking out of the White House, CNN's cameras were right there to film me walking out. Just unbelievable. Like, how do they get that information unless somebody who works for President Trump tips them off and says, Laura Loomer is walking out of this door at this time right now. Go get a photo of her. Somebody said, how do you not have Trump's email? Trump doesn't use email. Trump doesn't use computers. He doesn't use email. Any other comments before we close out tonight? Again, I am going to be reporting on this throughout the weekend, so be sure that you're following me on X for exclusive updates and reports. Follow me on X at Laura Loomer and on X at Loomer Unleashed. And also be sure that you're following my website, loomered.com, so that you can get all of my exclusive updates and my reports, read all of my exclusive content on loomered.com. Let's see. Somebody said CBDs work. I know, right? Maybe I need to get a CBD sponsor so I can just calm down at the end of a show, right? That's what I need. Anyway, with that, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I hope you all found this information to be informative, and I hope that every single episode of Loomer Unleashed gives you tools and information and content that you're not getting anywhere else. I'm not a news aggregator. I like to provide original content and original investigative reporting to my viewers, things that the mainstream media just isn't covering. So, you know, there still is a massive censorship campaign in this country. Even though we have Donald Trump in the White House and we have X and we have Rumble, there's still a lot of bureaucrats that are trying to censor the flow of information. They don't want people like Donald Trump getting access to information. They don't want the American people getting access to certain information because they want to keep you in the dark, and they want to continue sabotaging the Trump administration and the America First MAGA movement. And so that's why it's important that you support the program here at Loomer Unleashed by subscribing or supporting our sponsors. It was really great to have Dr. Kirk Elliott on the program tonight. Be sure that you contact Kirk Elliott Precious Metals tomorrow. Visit their website, kepm.com/Loomer, kepm.com/Loomer. Let them know that Laura Loomer sent you. One of the best ways to support the program here at Loomer Unleashed so that I can continue bringing you all of this exclusive investigative reporting is not just by subscribing. You can subscribe on Rumble, loomer.locals.com, or on my X account for $7 a month, but also by supporting our brave sponsors who support and sponsor Loomer Unleashed, because they're taking a stand to fight for free speech and to fight for uncensored, unfiltered content like the content that you're getting here every Tuesday and Thursday on Loomer Unleashed. So please be sure that you support our sponsor and also protect your financial future and your own investments and expand your own portfolio by investing in precious metals. With that, I will see you next week for another episode of Loomer Unleashed. Have a great weekend. Happy Passover. Happy Good Friday. Happy Easter to all who celebrate, and I will see you next week.
There is a young female journalist, conservative journalist by the name of Laura Loomer.
If America's men acted like Laura Loomer, Our problems will be fixed in about 5 minutes.
Chained herself to
She
Twitter.
chained her.
I wanna niggas in my life with the